You ever get so tired of applying to jobs nonstop and you just want a job and you just want to work and no one will let you freaking work and you just get so exhausted that you're like, man, I need a vacation. A vacation would help me relax. But then you're like, wait a minute, vacations are super expensive and spending a whole bunch of money doesn't make me relax. I need a vacation that I can do from home. Yeah, me too. Which is why you should play Dungeons of Hinterberg. I finished Dungeons of Hinterberg a while ago, and it's time for a full review because I really liked it. I think it's one of the best indie games I've played this year, and I really recommend it if you have a PC and Steam or an Xbox. In it, you play as Louisa Dorfer, a girl who's trying to get away from it all by taking a vacation in the Alps, where a whole bunch of dungeons have sprung up all over the place, spewing out goblins and ghouls and other kind of fantasy creatures. But instead of freaking out, everybody's like, you know what? We could make some tourism out of this. Let's have people come visit just to slay some goblins and ghouls and creatures. And there's like goblin slaying influencers and celebrities that are like, yes, I'm the best slayer, adventurer, dungeon explorer around. And it's this really wonderful, weird, quirky, fun setting that's super unique. Navigating the game's hella stylish world and fighting all the little creatures and solving some puzzles using the spells and abilities that you can unlock is obviously the highlight. It is such a great time. It's not the deepest combat system in the world, but it's super satisfying, especially finding new abilities to use. And one of my favorite things is that there are basically 4 different biomes you can adventure through, and based on what biome you're in, controls what 2 magical spells you get to use, which is a really great idea. It means that when you go to a different biome, it's just naturally going to be different because of the tools at your disposal. If these guys make another game, I want them to hold on to that idea. It's so unique and special. Obviously, one of my favorite powers is the snowboard, which, okay, look at this. Ready? You line them up. You go into combat with, and then leave a little trail of fire and then send out some tornado moves. Ooh! It's like I said, it's not the deepest thing ever, but it's super fun to do. And if you're worried about if the combat's going to be too hard, the game has some great accessibility options and difficulty settings. This could be played by anyone that really just wants to dive in and have some fun. I played it on the hardest difficulty, and I thought that was perfect. Pitch perfect level of difficulty. Mwah! Perfect. I've already kind of said this, but it is a really beautiful game. Look at the art direction. I love this. And this is the only boss I'm going to spoil because there's not too many bosses. But the boss fights in this game are a particular highlight. Each one is super duper fun. Look at him! But super fun to fight. I was very pleased with how much effort went into the boss fights. These are some really great stuff, especially for an indie game. As you adventure, you'll collect gear and loot and that kind of stuff. And if you have a lot more interest in making the right build than I do, you'll have a lot to do here. I just see the number that goes up and I equip that. But that's not a diss on the game. That's just how I handle loot systems everywhere. Does it make me do more damage? Cool, I'm putting it on. When you're exploring the dungeons and you're not slaying gobbies and ghouls, you listen to me, you Zelda fans. You're going to be doing some dungeon puzzles. And if you played Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and you thought, where are the classic Zelda puzzles? Here they are. These are some good dungeon puzzles. Every single puzzle, just so good. Hella enjoyable. No matter what biome, no matter what dungeon, the puzzles were probably my favorite part, even more than the combat. This game, if I was a teacher of game design, I would say, all right, your homework tonight, if you're going to be making a dungeon crawler with puzzles, you go home and you play Dungeons of Hinterberg and look at those puzzles. Those are some good friggin' puzzles, okay? That's my professor voice, apparently. I'm gonna scoop up this bomb and carry it over there. Easy. It just occurred to me I probably shouldn't be in this tornado. Run! Easy. One of the best parts about the dungeons and their puzzles is how they can throw some super unexpected curveballs at you. Because look at this ladder with this, what a thrill. Get to the top of it, and as you're going up, the camera's zooming out more and more, and I just thought it was a fun way to show the level. Like, oh, look at the fun level design, ooh. But then when you get there, the camera stays out, and suddenly you're in like this semi-isometric point of view. And you'd think that the game wouldn't feel as good here or work as good here. It does! It works really well. It plays really well. And that's impressive. I feel like that'd be a hard thing to do, to have your third-person action game switch to this and still feel responsive and like your moves are going where you want them to go. This is neat. And all the dungeons are filled with fun little stuff like this. It's not always going to be an isometric shift, but there's some fun little twists and turns here you'll never see coming. I love the dungeons. The Dungeons of Hinterberg, best part of Dungeons of Hinterberg. Woo! Does anybody else ever see minecarts and just immediately think of Donkey? Oh my gosh, Donkey Kong. This is so long and cool. Little goblins going by. Oh my gosh, some Temple of Doom stuff. We're going to fight in the minecarts. Bring it on. Oh yeah. Group up, everybody. Hasta la bamba. Now, when you're not crawling through dungeons and solving puzzles and slaying creatures, You're back in the town of Hinterberg, getting to know the locals, getting to know some other tourists, and there's a little bit of a persona system at play. Excuse me. You get to know people better, and the more you get to know them and spend more time with them, you'll get some increases to the way that you explore the world. You'll make it so you can get to know people even faster. You'll make it so they get new moves, get new gear, make your stuff better, blah, 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 etc., etc. And I like all of that. That's really good. My biggest problem is I don't think I liked almost any of the characters. Okay, I lied. I like the dog. I like the dog that you meet. But the humans, I mean, they're not poorly written. There's some different personalities. Is it the human characters? Like, they're just not that interesting. And they're all kind of rude. And even when they get to know you better, they're still kind of rude. I just didn't care for any of the characters that I met. It was all interesting enough to advance through the story. The main story has some fun little mystery twists and turns as you unravel the mysterious goings-on in the town. But the characters themselves and the little side characters that you meet, I didn't care for any of them, if I'm being honest. But like I said, the main story itself is fun and definitely enough to keep you going and to find out what's going to happen. But my favorite parts of Dungeons of Hinterberg that weren't combat or puzzles were just the quiet moments when you could enjoy the game setting, because they did some really cool sound design, and there are these bits where you can just sit down and take in the view, and it is like having a little staycation at home. But sometimes Louisa gets a little bit too real and a little bit too relatable. So the story is interesting. I don't really love the characters, but the characters never really got in the way. Talking to them, even though I didn't like any of them, still broke up the gameplay in a nice, pleasant way, and what they said was important to the story, which was interesting enough to carry through. But the dungeons themselves, the visual style, the music, and the puzzles, oh my gosh, the puzzles, this is a fantastic game. Dungeons of Hinterberg gets an A for Alps. Yeah.